Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. I just got done watching the Bassmaster Classic conclusion. Big shout out to my buddy Jeff Gustafson on taking the championship back to Canada. Jeff, I'm very proud of you. It's an amazing accomplishment. And honestly, it's something that I think just stirs so many of us and makes us want to win even more. It drives me, it makes me just want it even more. And it really motivates me to get out and fish. So big shout out to Jeff. And I want to mention one thing that he said on stage about taking kids out fishing and how important that is. So I thought I'd do a quick video on some of the baits that you can use to get kids hooked on fishing. Because honestly, a lot of people out there are not confident enough to even take kids fishing. They don't feel confident enough with their fishing, and therefore they're not even sure how to introduce a kid to fishing. And that's what I want to do today is provide you with some basic bass baits that will make your job easy. These are baits that I use routinely on guide trips. Anytime there's young children along that honestly may never have even fished before, but by the end of the trip, we've got them hooked on fishing, we've got them catching a lot of fish, and it's mostly because of the baits. It isn't really anything to do with myself as a guide. Maybe I can put them in an area with fish, but they're still the ones making the casts. They're still the ones that are catching the fish. And it's because the baits are such easy, simple baits to use, they're able to catch fish. So that's something that I want to address. I've got three basic baits that are my go tos anytime I have beginners in the boat. And this isn't necessarily just kids, this is beginners of all levels. This is kids, adults. It really doesn't matter, but these are kind of fallbacks for me. So we're going to get into that. Before I do, I want to remind you guys that if you're looking for some help on your lakes in your area, check out the lake breakdowns that I've done through fishthemoment.com. I've got lakes all over the North Country. I've got lakes all over around the southern part of the country that are more geared towards smallmouth, but I've done over 100 of them. If that's something that appeals to you, the link will be in the video description. If I haven't covered the lake in your area, you might want to check out doing a one-on-one virtual lesson with me. The link will be in the video description for that as well. So we can point out waypoints over the computer. We can talk about the lake in your area. Really good way to just help break down your lakes. Okay, so let's get into some of these baits. You know, these baits, if you're talking about some of the best anglers out there, these are baits that they're going to use, and these are baits that a lot of the beginners are going to use, but it's simply because they just are fish catching machines. The first one we're going to talk about here is just a wacky rig. I dropped it like I always do. Just a 5-inch max scent Berkeley, the general, in any form of green pumpkin or greenish hue is generally going to be the go-to. You can either rig it with a weedless hook, or you can rig it bare or just with an exposed hook and not weedless, just depending on the situation that you're in. So maybe if you're throwing around docks or you're throwing around laydowns, you might want to go with something that's got a weed guard on it, just to kind of help the kids from getting stuck, because the more you get snagged, the more it can be frustrating out on the water, and therefore that might not be a good thing. But a wacky rig is one of the best baits to get bites for the anglers out there, and it's something that's really easy to use. Throw it out, let it sink to the bottom, pull it a little bit, let it sink to the bottom. And generally speaking, most beginner anglers are able to handle this very, very easily, and they catch a lot of fish doing it. It's good for most species of bass. They're all going to bite it. Next up, we're going to talk about a small swim bait. This is one of my absolute go-tos. Anytime I'm fishing anywhere where it's relatively clean, meaning if I don't have a pile of grass or I've got not a lot of standing timber, just some place where people can cast and wind, a small swim bait, a 2.8, 3.3 swim bait on the back of a light jig head. I like an 1/8 ounce because that keeps the bait up off the bottom. If I got to go a little heavier, I'll do that. But this is such a fish catching machine, and it's not just for bass. You'll catch crappie, you'll catch perch, walleye, muskie, pike. You can catch almost anything on a small swim bait, and they love that. They catch a ton of fish, and therefore it's a great one. Now, one tip with that is if you cannot fish it clean, maybe you've got a lot of grass in your lake, the anglers keep getting it balled up, or maybe they're getting stuck because they are fishing it through maybe some lay down trees, or maybe you're getting stuck in some rock. One thing that I love to do is I'll switch over to a small swim bait, the same swim bait, but I'll Texas rig it, and then I'll put a light bullet weight on it. So basically, I'm fishing it as a Texas rig, but they're still casting and winding. And what that does is it allows that small swim bait to come through that grass or that lay down without getting snagged. Now, you may want to stress that they have to set the hook a little bit harder, but if you rig it so that the hook is basically just flush with the back of the bait at that point, they're going to be good to go. Very, very good tip. And it's something that has saved me on a lot of guide trips before where, I wanted to throw a small exposed hook swim bait, wasn't able to do it because of all the grass, switched over to a Texas rig swim bait. We were able to catch a bunch of fish. One other thing I want to stress is, in this case, this is a Kitech swinging pack fat. When I do rig a Texas rig swim bait, I like to go with something that's a little bit more durable plastic. This is the Berkeley Power Swimmer. The reason for that is these baits are tougher, and if you're bringing them through grass, the nose of the bait's not going to slide down the hook. If you do this with a Kitech, and it gets balled up in the grass, generally speaking, you're going to have the front of that swim bait slide down, and it's going to be a pain in the rear. The last one I want to talk about is all about generating the bites and being visual for the anglers. This is just a frog. A hollow belly, weedless frog is one of the best baits to give somebody to get them hooked on fishing. The two reasons for it, well, three reasons for that. One, they are really, really weedless, right? So you can throw this thing almost anywhere. You can throw it into a tree, you can throw it into the bushes. Generally speaking, you're going to get it back. So you're allowing an angler who may not have the casting skills to throw it into some of the nastiest stuff, they're going to get it back. Lastly, or the second reason, is because the bites are extremely, extremely addictive. You get some good frog blowups, and you're going to be addicted to it just from the standpoint of, holy cow, that surprised me. It took me completely off guard. Anglers love that. If you're experienced or a beginner, everyone loves a good frog bite. The next reason is simply because it's so visual from the standpoint of working your bait, meaning an angler throws it out, they can see it on the surface, they can see how their movement to the rod tips will affect the bait, so they can pull it, put it in a hole, they can work the bait, make it walk back and forth. It's a fun bait to fish with, regardless of whether or not you're getting strikes. So it's another really good bait from that standpoint. Just remember, if you're going to be throwing a frog, I highly recommend a little bit of a stiffer rod, but more importantly, braided line. Braided line will save you and make sure that you get those fish in the boat. But those guys are baits I have relied on for years to get young anglers, new anglers addicted to the sport of fishing. Those are some great ones that will not only get them some bites, they'll be enjoyable to use, and they'll lead to a good day on the water. If you have some other baits that you like to get beginning anglers hooked on fishing with, put that in the comment section so that we can learn from you guys. Otherwise, stay tuned. We got a new video coming out tomorrow. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this one. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned. New video coming out tomorrow.